Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another DIY video. We've got a little bit of fall left to do still. So today we're doing some fun, easy Dollar Tree fall DIYs. If you don't have a lot of time to pull together a DIY, you can definitely do these. We're gonna be using some Dollar Tree window clings along with some other items. So let's get to the DIYs. All right, so for this first one, we're taking something that I previously DIY'd. We're going to do that a couple times in this video, but that's just because I do a lot of DIYs and, you know, there's only room for so many items in my home. So this is one of those chalkboard signs from Dollar Tree. It would just be a plain chalkboard background with a like natural wood frame. And I just kind of took everything apart and we're going to redo it. So I'm going to give the chalkboard a couple coats of Waverly chalk paint in the color white. And you could, of course, use something similar, another frame, another sign, either from the Dollar Tree or that you've thrifted or that you have in your decor stash that you just don't really like anymore. That's a great way to find items to DIY. And I'm just using some painter's tape, trying really hard to get close to the edge. And we're going to paint off so I can do the frame again as well. Once again, this is all going to depend on what you're working with. So I'm mixing these two blues together. They were just in my stash. And I'm trying to make a color to match window clings. We're going to use a set of window clings from the Dollar Tree. This is from a previous year. And we're going to use them in several of the DIYs. But even the DIYs that are not using the window clings, we're going to try to go with the same color scheme throughout. This is not colors that I typically use in my home, but I think it's really pretty. But remember that you can take this to like your style. If you find different window clings and you have different, colors and all of that, by all means, go with what works for your home. So anyways, I matched the blue, painted everything with that, and now we're going to dry brush with a gray and tan color. I did all of these DIYs kind of together, but some of the clips are a little bit out of order. So I'll show you the color that I'm using to dry brush here because I'm going to use that throughout the video. So I'm just dry brushing that across the whole thing. And then this is a wood sticker. I don't remember if this is from, no, this one's not a sticker. Maybe it used to be a sticker. I don't know. I've used a couple of these. You can get them at Dollar Tree. You can get some at Hobby Lobby. I picked some up at Target Dollar Spot like years ago. So I'm just painting that in orange. And then this is the window cling that I'm using for this sign. And I'm just trying to figure out the placement with the pumpkin because I wanted that to be down at the corner. We're going to use some Mod Podge to secure our window cling. And I'm just doing the top, then the bottom. I'm just trying to not have too much Mod Podge, smooth it out, and make sure there's no air bubbles. And this adheres really quick and easy, and no problems there. So I just let it set for a minute to get tacky before I did the top coat because I didn't want it to just be moving around. So I do recommend that. And you can tell it's not totally centered top to bottom, but it's going to work. I ultimately decided to put my pumpkin off to the side. I realized it doesn't have to be right on the frame. It can be hanging off the edge. So I'm just going to put down a little bit of hot glue in the corner here to attach that. And this window cling, of course, fit perfectly on this sign, but there are so many adorable window clings. Dollar Tree has them. Dollar General has them for just $1. And Walmart has some, I think, for 98 cents. Anyways, here is the first one, and you're getting a glimpse of the color scheme for the video. And remember, if you're not into the bright colors, you can certainly change it up to fit your style. For this next one, I'm using this Christmas ornament that I picked up at the Dollar General. It was originally $1. I probably paid like 10 cents, probably no more than 25 cents. I like to pick things up at the end of the season. Dollar General has great clearance. You can often get things for like 90% off, and I can just do whatever I want with it. So that's what we're doing. I painted that with white. I did a couple of coats, and we're once again dry brushing with this color that I had mixed to kind of match the border on the window clings, but once again, I'll show you that at some point here. And then I pulled off I was hoping to pull out the staples, but I ended up cutting off the twine and got the staples out using something else. So I'm going to reuse that twine. It just gave me not much to work with because it was a lot shorter, but I could have used another piece, but I don't know, I just reused it. We're reusing the beads too. So we're going to paint one of them in blue, and I'm just using my heat gun to dry in between. It did take a couple of coats, but it did work. And when I got to the orange one, I'll show you a little tip because I was not having as good of coverage. I thought the orange over the red would be pretty good because like they're in the same family, but I could tell it was going to be too dark and it was going to take too many coats. And it was going to be like a deeper orange. So I just coated it with some white and then dried it and then went back in with some orange, a couple coats, and that was perfect. So not spending a lot on these DIYs, just reusing the items I already had. Here's another window cling. The window clings have like, you know, sometimes like a dozen different window clings in there of all different shapes and sizes. So I'm adding this one on. And then that little truck came from a pack that had maybe like, I don't know, I want to say like 12 maybe of those little trucks from Hobby Lobby. They do have them again this year. And it had the cute little, like the color of the truck was like maroon, which I felt like matched the window cling. So once again, Mod Podge, you know, below and above, and just putting across the whole thing so that the painted surface has the same finish. And then I'm just hot gluing on our little truck. And I thought it was cute, even though the truck has pumpkins in the back, but the window cling says, hayride this way. Anyways, I thought it was cute and I thought it went. So I'm just restringing these beads on, and that's just tying in more of that blue and orange. And I didn't have a lot of twine left to work with because like I said, I kind of cut it off there. And so I just hot glued it on the back. To be more secure, you can put a staple, and you could, of course, you know, use an additional bigger piece of twine. But I just did a little bit of hot glue for what I'm using this for. I feel like that would be just fine. And that is all for this DIY. I'll show you at the end them all together. I like how they all coordinate. I don't do a lot of that in my DIYs, but I thought it would be fun for this go around. All right, up next is a pumpkin sign from the Dollar Tree that I have redone at least once. So I've seen similar things like this at the Dollar Tree still. So find a sign and redo it. We're going to paint the pumpkin itself white. Once again, I'm doing a lot of white. Actually, I think I'm doing all white backgrounds here because with the window clings, you can see through them. And I just felt like it would pop the best. And also the clear border on the window cling would kind of blend in well with the white. And then I'm going to take that blue paint and paint the base. This, I don't even know what color this base was originally, but I do this a lot because, like I said, I make a lot of DIYs for my channel and I like to change up my decor. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm kind of bored with this. Let me take it apart and redo it. But these are definitely, you can definitely find items currently like in the Dollar Tree or Dollar General that you could make over and do something similar with. But clearance and thrifted finds are also great. Here's another, this one I think is a sticker, and I'm painting it orange just to be, you know, so that the orange shade will match the rest. And then here's the gray that I'm doing. I've got like a khaki and the pewter gray, and you can see I was trying to match the border around the window clings, and so I'm just mixing a little bit of that in a dish. This was when I first mixed it, and then I'd used it already, as you saw in the previous DIYs. So I was trying to keep each DIY together, but that made some of my clips out of order. So for this, I'm just using this to paint the stem. That'll take a couple of coats. And then I am also going to dry brush across the pumpkin, and I'm kind of just going around the edges just to kind of highlight them. I feel like it makes it look a little bit nicer because sometimes the edges just look so raw. And so I'm just using a little bit around the edge, and then I'm going to do some very light lines on the surface going in the same direction as like the curves of the pumpkin to give it a little bit more dimension. Not that it's going to look like a real pumpkin, but I think you get what I'm saying. Sorry for the light changing here too. Just I was working on things at different times of the day, and so I had the same light on, but the natural light was different, so it just changed a little bit. As you can see on these window clings, I did like one side at a time and just kind of held it still. They will slip around a little bit with the Mod Podge, so I just wanted to keep it in place. So, yeah, and then let it dry a little bit before you go ahead and do the top coat. And as you saw earlier, I was kind of placing the pumpkin down, so I knew kind of where I wanted to place this window cling. And as you can see, this one was a sticker, but I did add additional hot glue just to make sure that it stayed in place. And I thought this added another pop of orange to this one, and it kind of helped I don't know. I thought it was just cute to kind of have like a three-dimensional piece here. I actually even almost made it more three-dimensional by putting a little piece behind it, but I didn't. And then I have this berry garland from the Dollar Tree. I had some of this in my stash and it was perfect because it has that maroon color and it has the orange. I just wrapped it around the stem of our pumpkin and I'm just going to use a paintbrush handle to make our little curly cues. And I'm not gluing this at all. I'm just twisting it to help it stay on. There's really no concern for me. If you wanted to, you could certainly put a little dab of hot glue at the top. And then where I had cut it, the wire and the paper kind of that was on it was coming off. And so I just used a little bit of hot glue and my finger protectors to kind of wrap it back around to cover up the wire. So I wanted to show that to you because that may happen to you if you're cutting that garland as well. And another fun and easy one. These are all really like fairly quick to do. The biggest thing is just letting paint dry. So this is another sign that I had previously redone. And I think it was a sign from the Dollar Tree, and you know, any little boxy square sign or your window clings that you have is obviously going to determine the size that you need. Now this one may not actually use a window cling. I don't think it does, but I am going to make it coordinate. So I painted it white, and once again, we're dry brushing with that gray beige color just lightly, just to make it not look so flat. And then I do go around the edges and do the same thing around all of the sides. I had a spot there that got a little bit too thick, but we're going to end up covering it up, so it's just fine. These are a word pack from the Dollar Tree. I picked them up last year. I think they had them again this year. You're going to see another one that I used from here as well, but I painted that in the blue. I think those word packs came in a set of like 6. It was a really good deal. And then I have one of those pumpkin ornament cutouts from the Dollar Tree. And I've got this pumpkin fabric also from the Dollar Tree that I've had for a while. You can see I've used bits and pieces of it. And I'm Mod Podging that on. I thought I might need to do like the iron-on method, you know, where you let the Mod Podge dry, put the fabric on, and then iron on to reactivate the Mod Podge. But I had no problems with wrinkling whatsoever, probably because it's such a small piece. And I put a hefty coat of Mod Podge on top of it, making sure to go all the way to the edges, put a pretty thick coat, and then let that dry thoroughly. Now I wanted to try the sandpaper trick. I didn't know if it was going to work with fabric, where you sand away. You don't want to pull up, and you just get a nice edge here. This worked great. It would have been way better if I had a sanding block, but I do now. I've picked one up since, but I had not found one in forever at the Dollar Tree. They'd been out of them, so my sandpaper kept dripping, but this worked great. Got a nice clean edge for the fabric, and it did, near like the stem, I just used my scissors to cut a little slit so I could get in there better. You could easily just cut around it with like a sharp cutting tool, a knife of some kind. You could try to do with scissors. I thought it might be a little bit hard up at the top, but as you can see, it did work. My sandpaper got destroyed. Sanding block would be much easier. So now we're just going to attach our pieces. I knew that I was going to be covering up that big splotch that I accidentally got on there, so I didn't worry about it. And we're just going to use some hot glue to secure these to the sign. You could also use another type of glue if you wanted something to make sure it lasted really well. I feel like hot glue works pretty well. On this, I had a little bit of trouble just because it took me a while to get on all of the spaces. So some of the hot glue had hardened a little bit. But so far, I mean, it's still on there, but you could use some super glue gel or something like that. As I've already explained, like to take apart my DIYs after a year or two. So I'm fine with a hot glue, but feel free to use another glue to be a little bit more secure. And I love how this one came out as well. I think the fabric was a fun touch. So now I have a mason jar sign. This is from the Dollar General. Once again, I showed you it has a dollar sticker on there, but I know I paid less than that because that's when I pick them up. And the little mason jar lid was screwed on and glued on. So I took out the screws and then used a little like putty tool to pop that off. And I wanted to completely take off this paper. You don't have to do that. You could paint over it, or if you're just putting paper on top, you can do that. But if you ever want to take the paper off of these like MDF signs, all you have to do is take a damp paper towel and let it sit on there for a little while and peel it off and scrape it off. And you may have to do that a couple times because there's like a couple layers. There's almost like a plasticky coating. And then there's like the paper, and then there's like the glue. But it does come off if that's the route you want to take. And then I just painted that with a Waverly chalk paint, and then I'm dry brushing again. So here I'm going to show you, I did too much there, and I just tried to keep going with it, and I was like, I am not going to like this. So I made sure it was fully dry because I didn't want to smear it. And then I went in with a little bit of white paint in those areas and let that fully dry. And then I went back and dry brushed again. So as you can see, you can't even notice my boo-boos from before. Wow, that was a tongue twister. And I'm again highlighting the edges. I'm also kind of doing like the curves at the top and the bottom, just trying to kind of, I don't know, go with the shape of a mason jar. So the mason jar lid, I thought would be fun to paint that pretty blue. And I did do a couple of coats. Just make sure that you let it dry thoroughly in between. Otherwise, it'll just peel back up off of the metal. And then you see me using my heat gun a lot. That is always linked down in my description box if you're interested. I used to just use my hairdryer. And then eventually my hairdryer, like the heating element of it broke. And since I don't use a hairdryer for my hair, it didn't make sense to buy another hairdryer. I just bought the heat gun. Anyways, and then I just put some Mod Podge on that as well to make sure that that was all sealed in. Here is the orange I've been using, Harvest Orange by Apple Barrel. And I'm just going to paint this. This is another one of those words from the pack I was talking to you about from the Dollar Tree. Hobby Lobby has different like wood words as well. And we're just going to give that a couple coats. And now we're going to take some lightweight spackling. We're taking one of these leaf ornaments from the Dollar Tree, and I'm filling in the hole. I did not fill the hole in from the pumpkin we saw earlier because I was using fabric, but this one I'm going to paint. So just make sure that you let that spackling dry and then sand it down. And I was just showing you, I took that gray paint that we had mixed and I added a little bit of water to it. Not quite enough to make it like a stain, but I didn't want it to be as thick. I wanted there to be a little bit of the wood grain coming through, which might be hard to pick up on camera, but I just gave that one good coat. And I thought that would be a pretty color. So now we're going to attach our mason jar lid back on. I'm just using the little screws that was on it originally. This little screwdriver set is from Dollar Tree, and it is very, very handy for DIYs and just for life. And once again, we're using some hot glue. The super glue gel might be helpful for you as well, once again with the words, just because it can be hard to get on all the spots. I just kind of emphasize like the bigger openings and didn't worry about every little bit and piece. And I think, yeah, that is it for this one. I loved how these came out. I had fun doing something a little bit different with the colors that was outside of my norm. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you like the color combo. I feel like the blue and orange is kind of big this year anyway. But this is how they all came out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new, I would love it if you would subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.